She's not well. You all know that, right?" Lila said it so quietly, so carefully, like she was trying to protect me, like she was worried. But I saw the smirk flicker at the corner of her mouth when my mother slowly put down her glass and looked at me like she didn't recognize the daughter she raised. It was Christmas Eve. The fire was dying in the hearth. My fiance, Alex, stared at his lap while Lila sat there in her perfect red sweater, perfectly timed tears in her eyes, spinning a story so sharp it cut through every bond I thought I had. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Anything I said would sound hysterical, defensive, unhinged. She'd been planning this. That much I knew. But in that moment, I realized just how far she was willing to go. What no one knew, not Lila, not my parents, not even Alex, was that I had proof, undeniable, time-stamped, and I was waiting. But that night, I didn't reveal it. I let them all believe I'd finally snapped. I let them think I was paranoid, unstable, jealous. I let them say things they couldn't take back. Because I needed to know who they really were when they thought I had nothing left. And now I do. But let me go back so you understand how we got here. Christmas used to be the great equalizer in my family. Whatever resentments had built up during the year were supposed to melt away with the snow and the scent of pine. My mother believed in matching pajamas and handmade ornaments. My dad believed in overcooked turkey and bourbon-laced eggnog. We all believed for a while that Lila and I would grow out of whatever rivalry had haunted us since we were kids. But rivalry implies something mutual. This was different. Lila had a way of performing sweetness like it was second nature. In front of others, she was attentive, helpful, charming. She remembered everyone's birthdays, she complimented strangers, she made our parents feel like they'd done something right. Me? I was the quiet one, the steady one, the one who did the invisible work but never asked for credit. That's the thing about playing the long game. People stop watching you. They start believing the person who yells the loudest must be the one telling the truth. So when Lila arrived that December, all smiles and overpacked suitcases, no one suspected a thing. Not when she offered to help cook. Not when she insisted on wrapping gifts for everyone. Not even when she pulled my fiancé aside for long, whispered conversations she brushed off as catching up. And definitely not when she dropped little crumbs of doubt around the dinner table. Casual things. She's been really stressed lately. She said something odd the other day. I don't think she's sleeping well. All perfectly positioned, all harmless, until they weren't. Looking back, I can see it so clearly now. She was laying a foundation, not for a reconciliation, for a takedown, but at the time, I just wanted to believe the best. Because I'm not a dramatic person. I don't seek revenge or spotlight. I just wanted a quiet life, a peaceful Christmas, a family who didn't make me earn their love by proving I wasn't the villain they'd imagined. My name is Noelle. I'm 32, and last Christmas, my sister made me look insane in front of the people I loved most. But the one thing she didn't account for was that I pay attention. Lila and I were never close, but to hear my parents tell it, we were just different. That was the family's favorite way to explain away conflict. Just different. I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the one who always followed the rules. Lila was the golden one. Even as a kid, she moved through the world like it belonged to her. She wasn't cruel in the obvious ways. She never pulled my hair or stole my toys. Lila's genius was in being nice in front of witnesses and cold the moment their backs turned. She played a long game of control where every compliment was paired with a subtle jab, every act of kindness followed by a small humiliation. "She doesn't mean it like that," my mother would say when I came to her crying after one of Lila's emotional ambushes. "You're too sensitive." And maybe I was, but Lila knew exactly how to make me look unhinged while keeping her own hands clean. Over the years, I learned to keep my distance. We lived in different cities, had separate lives, and for the most part, that kept the peace. but every few years we were pulled back together for holidays or birthdays, and every time I'd leave feeling like I'd just survived something no one else had noticed. Last Christmas was different. She hadn't been home in 3 years. She told everyone it was her crazy work schedule, but I knew it was because her grip on the family had loosened. I'd started to step into that space, calling my parents weekly, hosting Thanksgiving one year, even helping my dad through his minor surgery. For once, I wasn't just the other daughter, I was seen, and Lila hated that. When she called to say she'd be flying in for Christmas, my mother nearly wept with joy. "She's really making an effort," she said. "Let's make it special." And I agreed. I really did want it to be special. But the moment Lila walked through the door, the air shifted. She hugged me tightly, too tightly, and whispered, "Miss me?" in my ear. I laughed. It sounded normal, but I felt the challenge in it. Over the next few days, I watched her reassert her position in small but pointed ways. She cooked everything, my mother gushed. She helped Dad with the lights. I usually did that. She gifted Alex a bottle of Japanese whiskey he'd mentioned in passing months ago. He was stunned. I didn't even remember him saying it. "Wow," he said to me that night. "She really listens, huh?" I smiled, but it felt like swallowing glass. Then came the private comments. Harmless if you weren't listening closely. "You look so tired lately. Are you working too much? I noticed your hands shaking a little when you were pouring the wine. Do you get that checked out? You and Alex seem, I don't know, a little disconnected lately. Maybe it's just me." Each one felt like a pinprick. Small, deniable, but cumulative. I started second-guessing myself. Was I tired? Was I being overly sensitive again? She was creating a narrative, not in big strokes, in whispers, the kind of whispers that, if repeated often enough, start to sound like facts. And the worst part was, no one else seemed to hear them. It started with a joke. Alex and I were doing dishes after dinner. He washed, I dried. My parents had gone to bed, and Lila lingered at the kitchen table, sipping wine and scrolling through her phone. "So," she said casually, not looking up, "are you two still doing therapy?" I froze. Alex didn't respond immediately. I looked at him, confused. "What therapy?" I asked. Lila smiled, eyes still glued to her screen. "Oh, sorry, I must have misunderstood. I thought you mentioned something about couples therapy last year, or maybe it was Alex. I forget." I turned to Alex. He shook his head, slowly. "No," he said, "we never did therapy." Lila finally looked up. "Oh, huh, my mistake." Then she stood and yawned. "Night, guys." And just like that, she was gone. It wasn't just the lie that unsettled me, it was the precision, the timing, the way she dropped it between us like a blade, just to see how we'd flinch. That was the beginning. The next morning, my mother pulled me aside while we were setting the table. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "have you been drinking more than usual?" I blinked. "Number, why?" She hesitated. "You seemed a little off last night. Lila was just worried. She said she saw you knock over a wine glass." I hadn't. That never happened. But I knew better than to defend myself. That's how Lila's traps worked. You either looked guilty denying it or insane insisting it wasn't true. I kept my tone calm. "I haven't been drinking any more than usual, but thanks for checking in." She smiled tightly. "We just want you to be okay." That phrase, I heard it over and over in the next 24 hours, from my dad, from Alex, even from my cousin who came over Christmas Eve for dessert. "We just want you to be okay." By then, I knew. Lila had planted something, some story, a version of me that was unraveling, paranoid, tired, maybe depressed, maybe drinking, maybe worse. She didn't need to come out and accuse me of anything. She just needed to make everyone wonder. And I didn't have proof. Yet. Until Christmas Eve. We were gathered in the living room, a fire flickering, lights dimmed, mugs of cocoa passed around. Lila was perched on the arm of the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through a group photo we'd taken earlier. She turned the screen toward the room. "Not bad," she said, laughing, except Noelle's eyes looked totally bloodshot. "You okay, sis?" Everyone turned to look at me. Alex leaned forward slightly. "You were gone for a while earlier. Where'd you go?" My heart thudded. I had stepped outside for a walk around 5 p.m. Alone. I needed air. Just 20 minutes, maybe less. "I just went for a walk," I said slowly. "Needed some space." Lila tilted her head. "Oh? That's weird. I saw you leave with that guy. The neighbor? What's his name? Josh?" "Josh?" My ex's best friend. Tall, charming, had always flirted with me a little too much. I stared at her. "I didn't leave with Josh." She blinked. "No? Huh. I could have sworn I saw you getting into his car. Must have been someone else." The silence that followed was the kind that stretches out and suffocates. Alex looked confused. My mother pursed her lips. My father cleared his throat. And then Lila delivered the finishing blow. "I just want to make sure you're being honest with Alex. You've been under so much stress lately. I mean, you even told me yourself. You're not sure you want to get married anymore." I looked directly at her. "I never said that." She gave a tight, pitying smile. "Noelle, it's okay. You don't have to lie. We've all been worried about you." And there it was, the story. Complete, unstable, dishonest, possibly cheating, unfit. She had built the house of cards, and now, with just one flick of her words, she let it fall. On me. Christmas morning felt colder than it should have. Even with the heat turned up and the smell of cinnamon rolls in the oven, there was a stiffness in the air that no one acknowledged out loud. My mother was busying herself in the kitchen, overly focused on the pastry glaze. My dad sat in his recliner flipping through channels without watching anything. And Alex, he barely looked at me. I moved around the house like a guest in someone else's holiday. When I tried to make small talk, it landed with a thud. When I asked if anyone wanted coffee, no one answered. Even the dog seemed to sense something was off. She sniffed my hand and then padded back to Lila's lap. At breakfast, I sat down at the table to find that my name card had been removed. Everyone else had one. Just a little folded piece of cardstock from my mom's craft bin, but mine was gone. I looked across the table at her, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. No one said anything. Not one word. Then Lila leaned over, pouring maple syrup over her French toast, and said, "I moved the cards around a little. Thought it made more sense with the seating." She had placed me at the far end, next to the kitchen entry, farthest from Alex. My heart didn't race. It didn't drop. It just sank into a numb, heavy stillness. I didn't argue. I just sat down in my new seat and ate in silence while the rest of them talked around me like I wasn't there. At one point, Alex mentioned something about a wedding venue we'd looked at months ago. My mother shifted in her seat. "Are you two still planning for spring?" she asked, her voice polite, almost curious. Alex hesitated. "We haven't finalized anything," he said quietly. Lila sipped her coffee, watching me with calm satisfaction. My father added, "There's no rush, right? Better to be sure." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my fork across the table and shout that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't lied, that I hadn't gotten into anyone's car. But I didn't. Because that's what they expected. That's what she wanted. One emotional outburst to cement the image she'd worked so hard to paint. So I finished my food, I helped clear the dishes, and I smiled like I wasn't breaking inside. Later that afternoon, I found my suitcase already packed and zipped by the front door. No one said they'd done it. No one offered an explanation. "I just thought you might want to get a head start," my dad said when he caught me looking at it. Lila was sitting cross-legged on the couch, flipping through a photo album. "You mentioned work on Monday, didn't you? I mean, it's probably for the best." Alex came downstairs carrying my coat. He didn't speak. He just held it out like an apology he wasn't brave enough to say out loud. I walked out the door without saying goodbye. It was snowing, light, slow flakes that melted as soon as they touched the windshield. I sat in my car for a full 10 minutes before turning the key. My phone buzzed with a notification. Instagram. Lila had posted a group photo from that morning, all of them in matching pajamas, holding mugs, smiling like it was the happiest morning of the year. The caption read, "Merry Christmas from all of us, one person missing, but always in our hearts." I stared at the screen. That was when I knew. She didn't just want to hurt me, she wanted to erase me. I drove for hours without music, just the hum of the tires and the occasional whisper of snow brushing the windshield. It wasn't until I passed the city limits that I realized I hadn't even cried yet. I wasn't sure if that meant I was strong or just numb. When I got home, the apartment felt foreign. Alex's things were still there, his coat on the hook, his shoes by the door, but it didn't feel like he belonged to me anymore. I didn't unpack. I didn't call him. I just stood in the doorway and let the silence swallow me. The next day, I found a note taped to the bathroom mirror. "I think we need space. I hope you can take some time and think about what you really want. Alex." There was no signature, no emotion, just a quiet dismissal. I left the note there for weeks. I called my landlord the following Monday and asked about the unit above the bakery on 3rd. It was smaller, cheaper, and slightly run down, but it was empty. I signed the lease the same day and moved in that weekend. I didn't tell anyone, not my parents, not Alex, not even my closest friends. I needed to disappear for a while. I needed to figure out if I even wanted to fight for people who didn't hesitate to abandon me. Every day, I walked past a Christmas display in the bakery window downstairs, a tiny porcelain house with a warm orange glow inside. It looked so peaceful. I'd stop and stare at it on the way to work, wondering what it would feel like to be that calm again. I cleaned the apartment slowly. I didn't rush to furnish it. I bought a mattress and a kettle, and that was enough for a while. I started journaling again. I deleted Instagram. I worked late hours at a design firm downtown where no one asked questions and no one had ever heard of Lila. And when the nights got especially long, I'd open the old folder on my phone, the one Lila didn't know existed, the one with screenshots, voice memos, and one short video that changed everything. I didn't plan to rebuild, at least not at first. The move wasn't meant to be a new beginning. It was damage control. But slowly, something inside me shifted. Not all at once, but in the quiet habits I formed to replace the old ones. I started walking again, just around the block at first, then down to the riverfront before work. I kept my phone on silent. I drank my coffee alone. There was no one to perform for, no one to convince. I didn't have to explain myself to anyone anymore, and that, strangely, felt like power. I signed up for a ceramics class on a whim. It wasn't something I'd done before, but it grounded me. Hands in clay, no screens, no words, just shaping something out of nothing. It reminded me I could still create beauty with my own hands, even after everything fell apart. The apartment was small, but I made it mine. I bought secondhand furniture, painted one wall a deep green, put up string lights, not for anyone else to see, just for me. I framed an old photo of my dog from childhood, the one who always slept at my feet. Some nights, I'd fall asleep looking at it, imagining a simpler time when loyalty didn't have to be earned. Work became an anchor. I threw myself into projects, took on extra assignments, stayed late, not to impress anyone, but because it gave me a sense of control. My boss started to notice. I got a raise quietly slipped into my next paycheck. No celebration, just proof that consistency still meant something in some corners of the world. I thought about Lila sometimes. I wondered how she explained my disappearance to the family. If they missed me, they didn't call. If they regretted it, they didn't say. And that was fine. I didn't need apologies wrapped in guilt. I needed space to see them clearly, and that's exactly what silence gave me. I didn't stalk their social media. I didn't ask mutual friends for updates. But every so often, late at night, I'd open that folder, the one titled Winter. Inside were dozens of moments. One audio clip where Lila casually bragged to a friend on speakerphone about how easy it is to steer the narrative if you just plant a few seeds. A screen recording of texts she'd sent me months ago, messages that contradicted everything she told the family, and one video accidentally recorded on my phone when I left it in the kitchen during her little whine and whisper session with Alex. I didn't need to confront her yet. I didn't even need to share it yet. I just needed to be ready. It was a Wednesday evening when the knock came. I wasn't expecting anyone. I hadn't invited anyone. It was late, just past 10, and I was still in sweats, sipping tea with an old movie humming in the background. I opened the door to find Jason, Lila's husband. We'd never been close. Polite, but distant. He was charming in that careful, curated way Lila seemed to admire in people. He always seemed just a little too agreeable, a little too polished. I hadn't heard from him since Christmas. In fact, I hadn't thought about him at all. He looked nervous, not anxious, guilty. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He didn't sit, just stood in the center of my tiny living room, glancing at the plants, the small space, the bare bones of a life being rebuilt. "I didn't know where else to go," he said finally. "I figured if anyone would understand what's happening, it'd be you." I didn't say anything. He took a deep breath. "I think I married someone I don't actually know." Still, I said nothing. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive, placing it gently on the coffee table like it might explode. "Lila's been spiraling," he said. "She's been deleting messages, lying to friends, rewriting timelines, and last night she got sloppy. I saw something on her laptop. A folder, screenshots, timestamps, audio clips, stuff about you, stuff about Alex, stuff she edited." I raised an eyebrow. He looked at me directly for the first time. "She doctored photos, Noelle. She sent fake screenshots to your fiancé. She recorded herself faking text exchanges with your number, then sent them to your mom. She used an app to fabricate half the story she told them." I leaned back, heart steady. "She said you were unraveling," he continued, "that you'd been erratic, impulsive, but I started noticing holes, and last night I found the originals." He motioned to the flash drive. "I copied everything before she could delete it. I don't know what you want to do with it, but you should have it." There was a pause, deep, uncomfortable. He looked down at his hands. "I think she was trying to isolate you," he said, "but also, maybe she wanted to win. Like it wasn't enough to just prove she was better. She had to watch you fall." I nodded once, slowly. He started for the door. Before he left, he stopped. "I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner." Then he was gone. I stood there for a long time, holding that flash drive in my hand. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even smile. I just turned off the movie, made another cup of tea, and opened my laptop. And quietly, without ceremony, I began to watch everything unravel from the other side. I waited 2 weeks, not out of hesitation. I wanted the moment to be clean, silent, deliberate. I wanted to look her in the eye when it happened. I sent the invitation by text. "Brunch? Just us. I think we have some things to clear up. Neutral place. My treat." She responded within minutes. "Of course it's about time." We met at a little cafe downtown, sunny, quiet, too quaint for a war zone. She wore a powder blue sweater and oversized sunglasses. I came in black, simple, sharp. She hugged me when I arrived, like we were old friends. I let her. We ordered mimosas, small talk. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I smiled politely. Then I opened my bag and placed a small envelope on the table between us. Her eyes flicked down to it. "What's this?" she asked. "Just some clarity," I said. She picked it up and slid out the contents. A printed email, a transcript of one of her fake text exchanges, the photo metadata from the altered screenshots, a note from Jason confirming the date he accessed the files. All neat, all time-stamped. Her smile didn't fade. Not right away. It stiffened, just slightly. Her fingers paused on the paper. I don't know what this is supposed to mean, she said slowly. I leaned forward. You told Alex I was cheating. You told Mom I was unstable. You doctored messages to make me look unhinged. And now I have the raw files, the originals, the voice recordings, and your husband's statement, everything. She looked up at me, eyes narrowing. You went behind my back. You went behind mine first, I said calmly. I just finished what you started. A long silence stretched between us. I was trying to protect the family, she said finally, softly. You were always so dramatic. You let emotions get the best of you. I didn't want you to self-destruct. No, I said, still calm. You wanted me to implode so you could stand in the center and play the survivor, but you didn't count on one thing. She blinked. I pay attention. She reached for her purse, voice suddenly sharp. If you think this is going to scare me, I don't want to scare you. I finished my drink. I just wanted you to know I saw it. All of it. I know what you did. And now you know I know. What happens next is entirely up to you. I stood. As I walked out, I passed a woman reading by the window. She looked up and smiled. I smiled back. For the first time in months, I felt clear. The storm had passed, and the damage left behind wasn't mine to repair. A few days after brunch, I got a message from Alex. Can we talk? I didn't reply immediately. I waited a day. Then I sent a time and place. Public, mid-morning, no ambiguity. He looked thinner than I remembered. Tired, like someone who'd been waking up next to doubt and now realized it was never mine to carry. He didn't sit right away, just stood by the table and looked at me like he wanted to say everything at once. When he finally did sit, it was with the weight of someone realizing how badly they'd miscalculated. I saw the files, he said. Jason showed me. I nodded. I'm sorry. He meant it. I could hear it in the way his voice caught at the edges. I believed her because I thought I knew who she was, he continued, and I doubted you because you were quiet. That's on me. I didn't offer comfort. I didn't rush to make him feel better. I'm not angry, I said, but I'm done. Not because of the lies, because of how quickly you folded when someone else held the narrative. He looked away. I stood, smoothing my coat. You didn't lose me because of Lila, I added gently. You lost me the moment you didn't ask me if it was true. I left him sitting there. I didn't look back. Later that week, a family group chat lit up with a new thread. My cousin had apparently found something online. Lila's voice in a short audio clip, admitting she had manipulated a few things for emotional impact. My mother sent a private message later that night. It said, I don't know what to say. I didn't reply. Some people don't get second chances. Some lessons don't need to be discussed. They need to be learned in silence. And silence, I'd learned, was where my power lived. The new apartment still smelled faintly of paint. I'd finished the last wall the night before, a soft, off-white, warm in the morning light. I sat on the floor with a mug of tea, watching the sun inch across the hardwood. No noise, no phone, just stillness. In the window, I'd placed a single ornament. It was small, hand-blown glass, shaped like a tree with golden flecks inside. I found it at a thrift shop the week after Christmas. I didn't need it, but something about its quiet shimmer caught my eye. It wasn't about reclaiming the holiday. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about having one thing in my home that reminded me. I survived, I endured, and I rebuilt, not with spectacle, but with intention. Lila hasn't reached out. My parents have kept their distance. Alex left town. And me? I still walk past the bakery most evenings. The porcelain house is gone now, the window's empty, waiting for next season. But I remember the light inside it. I remember how steady it looked. That's what I carry now, not rage, not victory, just light. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who's ever been made to feel invisible. And if you've ever had to rebuild your life in silence, drop A in the comments. Your story matters too.